Welcome to the Culture Edit. Unique perspectives into the personal and professional lives of individuals at the helm of successful business, athletics, art, and design. Welcome to the Culture Edit. We're on episode 39, getting close to 40, which means we're even closer to 50, which is exciting.
I think all the people should know that you actually got the number wrong, but you just re-recorded yourself.
It's fine.
Started
no one's counting. No one's paying attention.
Okay.
We have an exciting episode today with two friends, but before we get into that, we want to do a little recap on our week. We went to a really exciting friends and family event at a new restaurant called Pendolino.
Let's not do a full review. Well, I think we need to save that for our
No, we're going to save the full review, but
everyone needs to know celebrity chef Kevin Maxey has opened his restaurant in Buckhead. We got invited to the friends and family opening. We were the first guests.
The first people they've ever served.
Entire history of this restaurant,
Yes.
Which was a pretty special moment.
I feel like we need a plaque. Just saying.
I think we should get one of those little things where they put your name on the bar.
Yeah, like on like the stool
Yeah.
or like, yeah.
All right, I'll text him.
Okay.
But everyone needs to go. It's awesome.
The food was amazing. It's
Yeah.
Italian, really like good parking, easy to get to. So
They even have an Italian manager.
they even
Can't
have
get any more authentic than that.
Exactly. So it was great. We'll do a full review and like walk through the menu next week when we have our one-on-one, but just need to give a shout out to Kevin because he has been working on this for years.
Good
and
job,
it's
Kevin.
Finally come to life. So it's good.
Yeah.
Our guests today are really good friends of ours. We met them a long time ago. We kind of feel like we grew up with them in the entrepreneur world because we met them when we first were setting out to start our own business, and they were a few years ahead of us, but have been, great inspiration, great friends, great support. Anu and Bhargava Chiluvera are joining us today.
Be Chil.
Be Chil for short.
On
They
Instagram.
own a few different brands. So Chil & Co., which is their creative agency. Chil Studios, which is their actual studio that they rent out and use for events, and then 404, which is more of their community focused brand that helps photographers and videos really kind of find their way in the creative space.
They've been interesting for us to kind of bounce things off as we've kind of ventured on our journey of starting our own agency. Like you said, they're 5 years ahead of us, and so we get right into that during this conversation. We met at Switchyards, so there are other Switchyards alums. And I think it's a really cool conversation because it's the first time we've talked to someone who is a husband and wife team working together. And that's why we've had them on our list of guests for a long time, because we get asked about that so often and they get asked about that so often. We had a little bit different approaches to how we answer that, but it was fun to explore that.
Definitely. And, what they do is they really focus on premium short form content, so video, photography, social media, but they've also brought a lot of our own neighborhoods around us to life. So they talk about their impact and really their imprint on the neighborhood of Summerhill, which if you aren't familiar with the area, it's near the old Brave Stadium, and it's really an up and coming area. It has a lot of cool restaurants. I won't give any spoilers away, but they've had a huge impact on what that community is becoming. So it's very exciting.
And Bhargava is an amazing photographer. I don't know if we really talked about that. He's an artist. And I actually followed him on Instagram before I even met him. So it was like a weird thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fanboy.
And he hasn't been posting his art that much anymore. And I called him out on the podcast. And did you notice this week?
Oh, did he post?
He's been posting pictures like
amazing.
crazy. Yeah.
You inspired.
So,
okay, good.
Glad I could have a little impact on you, Bhargava.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Welcome to the Culture Edit.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're really excited because we've obviously known you both for as long as we've had our business. Yeah. I think you all are maybe a couple years ahead of us, and you've helped us a lot.
They knew what they were doing when we didn't know
you
what
knew
the hell
exactly
we were
what
doing.
You were doing when we had no idea. But I think meeting people along the way that, again, have already have this idea, it inspires you to keep going.
For sure,
you see people
absolutely
continuing to build.
I remember us helping with your first web header or something like that. I still remember that video. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the video is really cool.
Yeah.
We actually need to do another. We haven't done a video since then.
That's a cool space. You should definitely do it.
Yeah, even then, we were still trying to figure out exactly what it, and really because our clients have been the ones that have helped us figure out exactly what our services are valuable. But you're right. You guys had a clear, I think, vision for what you wanted to do, where we were I just left the corporate world and we were just trying to figure it out. So
Really?
it was
What were
it
you
was cool
Yeah.
to meet you guys at that point for us.
I would say that we were still in the journey to figure it out. And I do think like I think where we are fully evolved, I think around year 8 or 9. Like we're at about to hit year 11 right now.
Yeah.
I would say it was definitely a journey though. Like I don't think it was that clear of a picture. It was in my head and I always explain it to people, but I think I think I was mentioning to you before, like there was always this backlash of like, no, you either have to pick one lane, you have to pick, either design, photo or video. You can't do all this kind of stuff. So the story of me quitting my job is like, I actually did it out of like anger. I was like, just really tired of people not listening to me.
Yeah.
I was making decent money and I had a bunch of freelance gigs on the side. So I was fine, like financially speaking, but it was more along like, I think I was just stubborn and just like wanted to make change happen. I was like, that's a driving force for me. Like even right now as an agency, if things are not moving, it's very frustrating to me. I want things to move forward. So to me, just like, working at a company that was not moving as fast as I wanted it to, especially in like the arena that I wanted it, I think was a little frustrating. So I just wanted to quit and do my own thing. I had a few things lined up where like I had some business lined up. And then one of my friends asked me to take their wedding photos. And I was actually resistant. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. But they're like, no, you're great.
Yeah.
So and everybody just loved it. I made another video. Everybody loved it. And so I was like, okay, people keep telling me I should do this. So I'm going to pursue weddings, I guess. So I did that for a little bit.
We listened to people.
Yeah.
All right. We took people's feedback and started, but I was still doing the agency work on the side, but it was more or less like we were freelancers for a while.
Yeah.
And Anu joined me like 3 months later.
So was there a day? Did he come home and be like, let's quit? Was there a day?
April 1st was my day.
Yeah.
But she was a teacher, so she couldn't quit until the end of that year. And
I quit in June or July.
yeah, after the school year
over.
ended. Yeah.
I wanted to write it out. So.
And we had just gotten married. And so it was like right after, so, they tell you like, don't move or like, don't quit your job or like right after you get married and things like that. But we did like everything the opposite. We ended up doing a lot of things.
Yeah, that's funny because that's the same with us. We got married and literally 6 months later, we both quit our jobs and then tried to figure out what we were doing because we just knew we weren't seeing each other because he was traveling so much and we're like, we just got married and now he's gone 4 or 5 days a week. What are we doing?
Right. Yeah.
Like a month later, I told him that I wanted to leave.
Yeah. That's
and mine wasn't out of anger. Mine was out of exhaustion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was exhausted.
I mean, mine was probably around like some of that too. Because I was trying really hard to like make some things happen, and it was. But yeah, I think then we did that for a while, and I was pursuing weddings. But I think I was telling Chad the story before. It's like one day I thought I lost an SD card right after a wedding, and I was just completely distraught. I was just like, I was on the floor crying, like that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And then like Anu was a witness, like she could attest to
he
it.
was miserable.
It was so bad, and like it's just right after like a grueling wedding day where your bones feel like they're broken. Like it's like 8 hours of having 50-pound like weights on you all day long. Right? It's so hard, and then. I literally thought like my life's over. They're gonna publicly ridicule me. Like everything is just like this is just bad. So that's the moment I decided I'm just not gonna do weddings anymore. Like this is too much pressure for me, and like this I don't have a team, any of that. So
did you find the SD card?
I did. I ended up finding the SD card.
On the couch.
It was on the couch. It was.
Oh my gosh! I just like I can't even imagine having to tell Brian.
It was so bad. For the 10-15 minutes that I couldn't find it, I was freaking out.
We searched up and down everywhere.
Yeah, it was longer than that. It was longer than 15 minutes because it was. I don't know if I would have gotten crying with 15 minutes, but it was bad. I just vividly remember that. So I think that was like the moment where I decided, like, I came into this for corporate. But the bad part about quitting weddings is like you're already signed up for a year in advance, so I still had to keep doing that. But that's when we started like, and I think around year 5 is when we like found out we were pregnant.
Yeah.
And then started
that was right when we moved to Switchyards, actually.
Oh yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
And then we got pregnant later that year, December 2016. So.
And that's when we had to like start really thinking about it less as like us and like, it's really how can we find a team that can also help us, because time just became like a limiting factor. We have to figure out how to make time for like a baby. Like there were a lot of pre-baby things too. Like we had to train the baby, we had to train for the baby. There were classes we had to take, like a lot of things becoming real. And as soon as the baby came, like everything really became real. So the need for like a team became more real. So I think that's where we started expanding. we got our own studio right after Switchyards. I think we left Switchyards around the same time you all did. And I think this was like a year before the pandemic, and just had this beautiful studio. And I think the pandemic actually forced us to turn that into its own business, because we built it for ourselves as an agency. We were working out of there, but COVID happened and we had to all go remote. So we were like, we just signed a 5-year lease. What are we going to do with this huge space? And then, the dream of having a full-time studio became reality in that way, because it wasn't like necessarily a plan to do it right away. So it's just like, now we'll do this too. And like, I mean, it works really well. It's a great business. Anu's like great at setting up systems. She has a great help in doing so as well with our team. So now
I always knew that I didn't want to lose the brand Chil Studios, because that was the wedding business. So
I didn't realize that.
Okay. It was the family photography and wedding, consumer business. And then we converted it to the studio, because I never wanted to get rid of just how strong of a brand it was.
So you got Chilco, Chil Studio, 404.
Chil & Co. is the agency. The Chil Studios was like the, I guess, the consumer business that got turned into the studio itself, because it felt really clear that that's what it is. And then 404 is like our community brand. It's like the stated mission is to empower creativity in the city of Atlanta.
I do want you to talk a little bit though about the journey of figuring out how you provide a service that's valuable to clients.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That is a really good question.
Because I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with that in a way of like when framing it as like, I'm going to create this business and I'm going to provide a service, like this is what I'm going to do. But then they get lost in like selling packages, because everything just becomes sales driven, right? Because you're coming into wanting to make money. And in a way, I think I'm really fortunate that I didn't go into it wanting to make money. I wanted to go into it to prove something. And that may or may not be a good thing. But I just wanted to do stuff. I wanted to do creative stuff in my own way. And I wanted all control over it. And I just wanted to bring value to people. And I
We're
think
on the same page with that.
So like to me, because money wasn't the driving force, I think I was able to figure out over time, here are the projects I really am good at. Here are the type of things that I really want to do that bring me joy. Here are the parts of the business that I'm not good at that somebody else can potentially do, that we can bring in partners for, all that kind of stuff. So I think the services part though, how am I going to be valuable and somebody's going to pay me money, is really listening to them. I think that's the one part a lot of people miss when they're creating a service-based business, is like, you have to understand your clients' issues and goals. And if you're not hitting those, you're going to lose them. Doing that is what I think makes us really, really valuable, or like the services that we offer really valuable. And that I realized that because I think like it's just a relationship with my clients. Like the way they talk to me, the way they express their gratitude to how the type of work that we do, the quality of work that we do, and the type of solutions that we bring to the table, the way we bring it, I think it's all like verbally given to me from like the highest levels. It's like CEOs telling me this, and like to me it was really humbling, because like I was just this random Indian kid that came into this like, because we do work in like heavily in commercial real estate and food and beverage. It's dominated by mostly folks that don't look like me. So like having these really, really big folks with a lot of assets under their belt. Like I had John Portman Jr.'s one of his sons. I had the pleasure of working with Gerald Portman. Like hearing these things from somebody like Gerald Portman it makes you feel validated, I guess, in some way or another. And
gives you confidence.
Right. And I think that's the confidence that I think I took to just say, okay, this is what we're doing. These are services that are very valuable. We bring a really unique perspective to the table. And I think that is where I think, the value comes in.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. I think a lot of agency service providers go into potential relationship with clients pitching projects, right? Like we don't do that. We tell them what we do and we explain our philosophy behind it. And maybe we'll show them some work, but then we dedicate 70% of that initial meeting to just hearing from them, like what are their challenges.
And it's funny, like you probably ran into this, but we'll have some people that come to us and they want such a specifically designed like price point and package.
A package.
And we're kind of like, that's hard to do. It's really, and if you want it to be that straightforward, you might not even really know what you want, which is also a problem, because nothing is in the agency was ever that straightforward.
We just ran into a competitor, and like, I heard this thing about like, you're never going to win trying to be a price leader. Like, and that's something that we try to do is like, but we do want to know what the competition looks like sometimes. So we were just like shopping, and we ran into this price sheet, and like, it's like a package, like you get 7 reels, you get this, and I'm like, how are these people making money? Like how much are they paying others? And what kind of quality is this? Like it just feels like, cookie cutter. I'm just going to like get this out. And the business is just stuck with a bunch of assets. Like at least the business we're in, right? Like what y'all are servicing is a little bit different. Like I think everybody thinks that they can do what we do, which is like, I can take photos, I can design, Canva's there, blah, blah, blah. And all those things are true, by the way. Like you can do those things. I think what we're doing is like just at a much higher level and just trying to solve those problems,
Solution oriented with creative content.
You'd be surprised how many people think they can do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody thinks. And I think that's one of the challenges with being an agency is like you kind of have to prove, like, because you're coming in from the outside too, and you kind of have to prove your worth sometimes. Like there's going to be a lot of people, the people that hired you are not always the people that you have to end up working with.
Exactly.
That also ends up, but we always win people over just literally showing that we're just hardworking people. We're not trying to take your job. We're just trying to support you.
Yeah. And I think, so you guys share a similar philosophy then that we do is once you get that confidence that you're adding so much value in your work, you become a premium service. So you don't have to compete with those package deals. Right. And that's what we decided years ago based on the feedback from our clients. And we saw what the results were for our clients, which were extremely impactful for them in terms of how they were able to perform better, retain more people, et cetera.
I also think there's just a shift in the way businesses are thinking now, because a lot of really big agencies, whether it's agency doing what we do or consultancy doing what we do, focused on kind of that HR, people strategy, culture, communication, all internal. The big agencies are really struggling, and they're losing a lot of pitches, and they're losing to people like us, and they're losing to businesses like you that are smaller and more nimble and more passionate because the founders are still involved, and we treat our people right. So our people are actually really happy, and they go above and beyond for the clients. And I think that over the next few years, we're going to continue to see that shift of like these big corporate companies getting away from the cookie cutter big agencies that charge because they charge a lot because they have to, not because they're actually providing a good service.
I think it's happening like across the board, right? Like media is like the same exact way. Like, big media is going away. It's like a lot more niche media that everybody, I think technology and like internet has allowed us to just kind of be able to do that. Like, it's just that maybe 10, 15 years ago, they couldn't even find you. Like the fact that they couldn't even find you is probably the differentiator,
Definitely.
And I think that and similar to us too, I think we were able to run into so many clients just because of hard work and like some of that connectivity and that network. But a lot of this conversation I feel like is privileged because like people that are just starting out, when they hear this, I feel like it becomes really disheartening. Because I was in that position. I used to hate hearing that. I'm like, well, I just don't have those connections. I can't get that contract. That's true. Like if you're signing up to be a service business, you're gonna have to know that it's a long-term thing, and you have to grind for it. And you're gonna have to prove yourself because nobody's gonna give you anything because of you if they don't know you. You may be lucky that you're coming from like KPMG and like you have a track record or something like that. But if you're starting out, like you're gonna have to prove yourself somehow.
I feel like everybody wants to build a business, but it's not that easy to build a business. And I've learned this also while I was at Switchyards, that there's something like called imposter syndrome, where a lot of women go through this, where we think we need to be a certain way, do certain things, or even our agency needs, what we've been saying, the theme of people expect you to do certain things. And that's not always true. We should be true to ourselves and provide those services. But it's hard work. Like you said.
What's the risk thing that you mentioned before too? Like talk about that. It's people, I think you're right. A lot of people want to start their own business, but you've got to be willing to take that risk, and it's scary as hell.
Yeah. It is. And there's going to be a lot of nights, and you guys probably know this, where you look at each other and you're like, oh gosh, like how long can we do this for? Because there's times when in those times get better as you continue to grow the business, but I can see why so many people quit.
I always make this metaphor about like whenever you have a job, you're essentially tethered to a mountain. Like when you come in as like an intern, like whatever, like an entry level job, you're like they give you a tether and you start climbing it. And if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, like what you're trying to decide is you need to build your own mountain. But before you hit that ground, you need to pack a parachute, because that fall, like as soon as you cut that tether, it's going to be faster. Because like when we quit our jobs, like I always caution people, don't quit both your jobs at the same time. Try to have one income and like, the benefits and stuff like that. Because what we gave up both our incomes and we gave up benefits, right? I think the benefits is what you don't even think about is like that. And just paying for your own healthcare and like just not having the idea of like, you're not contributing to your retirement anymore. Like all that stuff is just gone. So like
there is no salary.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And you lose that money really fast. We thought we had like, a decent amount of money saved up. And as soon as we just like quit our jobs, like all that depleted right away. So I tell everybody, like, just make sure you have a parachute. So like that landing right after you cut from the mountain isn't that drastic. And then when you land, you're going to have to start, creating your mountain. Like, and then that's just like adding to, and it's going to take a while. Like a mountain doesn't form like right away. It's like you have to kind of start.
You have like a hill.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, and if you try to do it too fast, that's also going to really be tough. So like, I think,
You both quit your job at the same time. Yeah. We both quit our job at the same time. Yeah. So 4 stupid people sitting here. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Do you guys ever talk about whether or not you think you could have done this without being together, being married?
What do you think?
I probably would not be able to. In this capacity, as far as the creative world.
Right.
I would say in that way. The creative world is more, I came into it.
Right.
With my skills. However, if it was something else, I think I could take my skills anywhere and start a business with anybody, but I'm so happy to be doing this with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're successful because we're happy doing this together. I love the journey we're on every day.
Absolutely. And I also think like you can say that the studio is kind of like a test subject and how her skills could transfer beyond me, because the studio, we've set it up where it's not dependent on me at all. It's just a consumer business where people can book it out, and like Anu's taken that and like built out an entire business around it, right? So her ability to help build a business is like really like the number one reason why we're successful. Yeah. Because I can be creative all day long, but if like that's not notated and like backed up with getting paid, like we wouldn't exist, right? Like have proper contracts in place, and they just essentially have an infrastructure. And I do feel lucky that we get a chance to work. Like we, even in high school, like we were just in different clubs together. Like that's where we met. Anu and I met in high school. Yeah. We weren't together in high school. We met, like we started dating much after college, but we were really good friends, and we would just be in different clubs together and stuff like that. And we had a relationship where we knew that we could trust each other's work ethic more than anything. I think there was a trust of work ethic, and that created like just a great ability to just say, okay, we can do this because I know you will do this, and she knows it, or that I'll do this kind of thing. So.
And I think that's a great answer. I was more thinking about the mental challenge of not having someone else, a partner, when you're having a bad day. Like we talk about it all the time. Like I would have just been like, screw this, I'm going back to corporate world. If Nikki wasn't there to be a positive light.
Because we try to like ebb and flow, like where if I notice, like, because we're all married, so we like when you wake up that your partner might not be having the best day for various reasons, whatever. We always say that like we both can't be down. Yeah. Now we both can be up. That's always positive, but we both cannot be down. And so we try to read each other of if he's feeling really stressed about something, even if I'm stressed about it too, I'm going to try and like think of the silver lining or think of the positive things that we're doing, and vice versa. Like he's doing that for me when he sees I'm really stressed out. It's like, what can I do to help? What can I take off your plate? And so we always say it would be really hard to do this alone. We always try to celebrate even the littlest wins, because we'll catch ourselves taking wins, even small ones, for granted, and we have to stop and say like, okay, like let's actually celebrate what we're doing, because even small things add up to something big.
I'm the worst at that. Anu is way better than me, like because she always thinks that like even with big contracts, like immediately I'm thinking about, okay, we got to operationalize this. Like how do
we just got this contract.
Yeah, like let's like breathe and have a glass of wine.
Yeah, for sure. I'm getting better.
What do y'all do to celebrate a big contract?
Travel.
Yeah.
We tried. If we do, I try to get us to travel every 3 months. I think that's a great reward for us.
I think I mean, experiences and stuff like that, travel. And I mean, also rewarding our employees too. I think we give bonuses from time to time. I think like every time there's like any kind of a financial benefit, like all the people that are involved, like can somehow see it kind of thing. We do have to have like that work-life balance. So we did decide to have like date nights, like, once or twice a month, like that's like dedicated to be date nights. And like, that's not always on the date where you're having the best business luck. Like there may be a whole quarter where you're just having terrible luck, but we still have to somehow still push through and make sure that date night happens. Because like if you're missing that, then like just because you're down with the business doesn't mean that you shouldn't, as a husband wife, still like try to enjoy time together. Because like you're always around this. So how do you kind of create time and just like separate it from that? So I think
and not talk about work.
Yeah. That's the hard.
You guys do that?
We try to limit it, like I mean, going into it, we're like, okay, let's try not to talk about work kind of thing. So,
But
you have Mila, which gives you like more to talk about, because we a lot of times people are like, do you just talk about work constantly? I'm like, I mean, because that's kind of like all we have to talk about, and like riding bikes and running and.
I mean, when your name is the business,
right,
like you guys, it's ours too. It's like your brand. You're thinking about it.
Constantly.
That. Did I know that? I just picked that up. That is
really?
your name. So that's all.
I
don't know.
He's looking at the sign above my head, and he just realized Niche is Nikki and Chad.
I just figured that out. That's
together.
Awesome.
You know what's funny is we've had clients where they get that and they're like, oh, Niche, Nikki and Chad. And
okay, cool.
And then we'll have clients for like years, and then we tell them finally, and they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how some people's brains just like completely work different.
I figured that out, which is strange.
I didn't know that.
Because you're usually quicker at that. But similar situation with Chil. They're like, it's your last name.
I was really worried about naming us Chil. Like I knew it was the one that pushed me into it. I was like, like people already think designers and photographers are lazy bums. Like, you really want to put a name like Chil, and it's like, no, it's cool.
I think it's perfect.
I love it.
It's like kind of our personality. I really love that it's like our internal philosophy. People love saying that, to working with us, and like I really love our team. But even our clients, like I think we say that, you'll have a chill time. We don't have any chill, but you'll make sure like you'll have a chill time with with all your work and everything that needs to get done.
And I think we carry that throughout the company, the culture too. I hope, and I think I believe our contractors are very happy. I mean, they get to work remote, wear whatever they want to wear, be comfortable, and just be, again, chill.
Because it really like it just doesn't. There's certain things that we as small business owners have the privilege of that maybe like a large company doesn't. And one of those is just flexibility. And so I'll never quite understand when I meet a small business owner that's just so inflexible. And I'm like, that's the luxury of being a small business is there's nothing that can blow up or fall apart. We're not saving lives. We're not like most of the time we can be completely flexible and people can pick everything up and figure it out.
That's so true.
Yeah. We just had we have a monthly team breakfast because we're mostly remote first at this point. Like after COVID, we ended up going on Zoom, and like we never really went back to the studio, even though we have a studio. We encourage everybody to co-work and stuff like that. But we have to kind of keep culture alive somehow or another. So we have team breakfasts once a month, and then we have like a happy hour once a month. So it's like two just events where people can kind of get together, just kind of hang out with your teammate instead of just seeing on Zoom.
Let's talk about Summerhill. So you guys live there?
Yeah.
You're in Summerhill?
Yep. We moved there pre-pandemic.
Right. So you've really watched it change.
Yeah. It's been nice.
And we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast that live in Atlanta, but talk about Summerhill because I don't think a lot of people are as familiar with it.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get some of these tourists in Inman Park to go to Summerhill.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I was really fortunate actually that I had a chance to work with Carter, who were when the Braves moved out, and like I think the idea of just redeveloping that area came about. I think Carter partnered with GSU to help develop Georgia Avenue and Hank Aaron, and this was our first. Actually, it happened right around the time that we were talking about. When we met, it was our first commercial real estate project. Before then, we worked on a lot of. In the real estate world with like brokers and real estate agents and things like that. But this was our really like a first project where like the contract was actually kind of fluid. They just said, tell the story of Summerhill. So I really just immersed myself in the neighborhood and got a chance to meet a lot of old residents. And there was there's a really tight neighborhood association called ONS, Organized Neighbors of Summerhill. I had a chance to meet one of the old presidents. He like literally drove me around and showed me all the history. But cool. Summerhill has like crazy great history that surrounds it. Like, so, like a lot of historical things that you think of like related to Atlanta happen in Summerhill. So like Hank Aaron hitting like the home run happened in Summerhill and Muhammad Ali like lighting a flame happened in Summerhill. We literally can see the track from our house where like Olympic athletes practice, and we get to go run there. And they can you can literally, like, I mean, Turner Field was such a big part of like my childhood. Like I used to watch the Braves at that time, like pretty regularly. So like being able to like live right there with the Braves and stuff like that. So all that was there, and we had a chance to kind of help market or tell that story organically. And like we grew like a social account pretty organically, all that kind of stuff. So through that, like we had a chance, like we knew some of the vendors that were going in and all that. And around the same time, we were looking to move from West Midtown. And we actually had multiple offers. One in Grant Park where like some, like, at this time, people were just like literally throwing cash around, like 20 grand over asking price in cash or something like that. So one fell through. Another one was in on the west side in Oakland City, and that fell through for some reason. So like there were all these things that were just happening, and we found one house in Summerhill, and we were like, this is cool. Like this is almost like kismet. Like we love this area. We used to go just hang out there. Anu and I like used to run the track there just because again we were working on a project right there.
So we're like, might as well hang out here.
Yeah. And so and so it was just a great opportunity. Like, it's like knowing that we would be able to walk to a park and like a coffee shop, a pastry shop, and a pizza shop, and like anything that our daughter needs is just it's been a great decision.
Walk us through kind of like what are your staple spots that you always go to?
We spend a lot of money at Little Tart. We love Sarah and everything that she does with that shop. So like everything at Little Tart's awesome. Like the coffee is awesome. The pastries are incredible. I would say that's where we frequent the most. Our daughter does love like Junior's Pizza. Like it's an easy pizza. It's like by the slice. A lot of people don't do slices.
Big softy, soft serve ice cream.
We still haven't been there. We need to go.
Oh yeah,
everyone talks about it.
If you love soft serve, I would say Big Softy does it great. They also have like 2 vegan. Like they actually do a swirl now, a vegan swirl, which is awesome. And then Halfway Crooks makes incredible beer. Like I really, really like hanging out there too. It's like a great little brewery. And like if you're into soccer and stuff like that, they're really heavily into that. And like just it's a great place to just kind of take friends and hang out.
There's a Mexican restaurant.
I like how you said that. So we've been really fortunate that we recently got approached to see if we would be interested in being partners in a Mexican restaurant. It was a concept that was done by Elio Bernal, like before called De Boca and Boca. And it just, because it was like an elevated concept, and just as it also started right at the pandemic, so we kind of struggled to kind of get it off the ground right away. And I think because of that, it kind of just never really took off. But a group of like ownership, like as an ownership group, kind of went in to kind of help him rebrand it to do it more as a neighborhood spot. And we loved that idea. We actually kept talking about how like this would be great if this was like a neighborhood spot. And we immediately said yes. Like literally every one of our financial advisors were like,
Terrible idea.
Terrible idea. Why would you do the restaurant industry post-pandemic?
But
are you crazy?
There are also folks that were like, it's we know you guys, like we know what you are. You wouldn't have just like come to us with this without like thinking about it, and and we're getting a chance to own a piece of a restaurant in your own neighborhood. Like,
it's pretty cool.
It doesn't matter.
What are the chances of that?
Like what are the and we took the risk. Like financially, it was pretty big for us. It wasn't like an easy decision to make. It was a decent number, but we're like, hey, being able to be a partner in something like that, and we work with a lot of food and beverage clients, right? So for me, the other portion was like, I want to empathize with my client. If I can empathize with my client, knowing the struggles they go through, and I can help them because of that experience, like that, I'll be a better agency as well. So, we're
casual Mexican.
It's a casual Mexican.
When does it open?
It's technically open. You can go right now. We're still working on like kind of redoing like each single menu item and things like that. So
rebranding.
There's a lot of really good stuff. I will like if you're going right now, I would recommend the birria tacos. They're really, really good.
You like those?
Yeah.
And you like steak. The steak tacos are good.
And we're rolling out fajitas now and stuff like that. Because again, like all the concepts were kind of higher and elevated Mexican. Again, he was doing a great job. It just wasn't like it was a higher price point. So we're trying to figure out all the new menu items right now. The drink menu is set. So if you like or in the mood for margaritas or something, I would
always
love margaritas, especially going into summer.
Yeah. Thursdays we have specials. $7 margaritas.
Really?
Okay. So you can check that out. But like there's a great like we had a chance to do cocktail tastings and stuff like that. So the new menu, like we got a chance to pitch in on that. So that was really awesome.
Is there an outdoor?
Yeah, there's an outdoor patio.
Patio.
Yeah.
So we could just roll our bikes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love to go to places after riding, and like that has an outdoor area, and we like roll in with a bunch of friends, and everyone just gets food. But one thing is, it always kind of needs to be like casual and cheap because you don't want to walk in a nice place and
definitely. And if you end up doing it on Tuesdays, there's Taco Tuesdays, so it's like $4 tacos. Like so.
How late is it open?
It's open until 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
I think.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to after a few margaritas to say, You know who I am? I know the owners here.
Chad's the name dropper.
Oh, nice.
Dropping
Yeah, I don't know if they'll recognize. I don't. It's like,
I'm
there's
sure they'll recognize you. I'm just Bhargava's wife.
I'm just Nikki's husband. So,
Yeah, so you understand.
are you guys doing the branding?
Yeah,
Doing the
again, yeah, it was. We got lucky that we were getting to do the branding and stuff like that. So the website should be rolling out soon, and we're gonna do some like nice social stuff. And,
What's the creative philosophy behind the brand?
It's leading into the neighborhood. Like Summerhill is like super colorful, and like there's tons of murals around and stuff like that. And like we're not trying to overdo it because like it's not necessarily super authentic anymore because like we're trying to cater to the neighborhood. It's like kids can come in, like anybody can come in and just have a casual experience. So we're really listening to the neighborhood. We just keep getting feedback from folks. Just reconcept this to fit the neighborhood because like the neighborhood exists. There's a great like sense of community. People can come gather here, make this like so. We're just leading into that and visually it's leaning into the Summerhill aesthetic of just like colorful murals and all this kind of stuff. There's this beautiful mural right next to it, so we actually just lean into that for the color palette and all this kind of stuff. So different elements from Summerhill and this and that.
Why don't you take pictures of sunsets anymore?
That's a great question.
It hurts my feelings.
It hurts our hearts.
Yeah.
Jackson Street Bridge sunsets.
It's so interesting because I think I don't know if people have met me like in the last 5 years, I don't know if they know that I pursued art as hard as I used to when we used to hang out.
Yeah.
Like I was like very, very much like I wanted to kind of be known as like an artist and this and that. Like I think
even on our tax return, he's listed as an artist.
Yeah.
That's funny.
At the time.
But it was, I think there's only so much, like I think.
You can't say there's only so many sunsets.
No, it's not.
It's not
that. No, it's that. There was only so much time that I think I could dedicate to like one thing or another. I think art was one of those things that I ended up having to sacrifice almost. Like I love my art. I still like go back and like kind of fantasize about this art project or that art project, but I just needed time to decompress.
Yeah.
I think lately though, I think my urge has been to do more content that I think could change people's lives potentially. If that's like in the form of like videos or podcasts or whatever it might be, rather than just because I think my art was too conceptual and like subject. Like I would have to tell an entire story for that piece of work to make a difference. Even though I love my art and how I used to do it, it's that I think I want to just make educational videos or like something that'll make a difference in somebody's life, and I can see it as an art project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's hard to, as a creative person, we always want to do everything, and it's so hard to make time to do all of that. But at night, if I come home, like I play piano, but I often just like don't have time. Like there'll be like really big chunks of time where I just completely stop, and then there'll be chunks of time where I get back into it, because sometimes art also feels like a lot of work.
Right.
And even though it's like relaxing in some circumstances, it feels like a job. And so for me, but like cooking is, I go into like Zen mode where I don't have to use my brain in any way. And we were recently, a long time ago, we got rid of our dining room table, but recently we kind of feel like we've just like lost like any like calm. We're always working. We're like in this, especially since getting the studio, we're here till like 10, 11 o'clock at night, just like and like we'll just like order a salad or like eat, like we joke, we'll be like, oh, we'll just make charcuterie, but it's like boar's head turkey that we just have left. So we're like not eating and not sleeping. And so I'm like, we need to get a dining room table. Yeah. We need to have a reason to like check out.
It wasn't that the room
home.
Was empty. We made it into a lounge.
Yeah, it was a lounge, but we never used it.
Yeah. So similar vibes to this. So we're gonna make a
point to like try and do something to actually go home and decompress and like sit down.
I think that's really important.
Let's talk about 404.
Okay.
Let's talk about what that is and the community around it.
Yeah. Like I think this was another venture that I like kind of started with Anu, like everything else, and just. Again, the money wasn't the main focus. I just saw that there was this need for community in the city of Atlanta where, again, this group of people like that could be just labeled as content creators. I just call them creatives in general. So I wanted to build a community even back at Switchyards, and I just tried to do everything in my power to use whatever resources that I had access to and try to see if I can give that back to the community somehow. So we started off doing photo walks and like just being able to gather at Switchyards. Michael Tavani at Switchyards was like really gracious to just like let us host meetups and things like that there, which was awesome. But as soon as we got to our own studio, we actually had our own equipment and like connections. We started just doing things like open studios, where like literally open up our studio, people come in, hang out there once a month and play with our equipment. Just to, like when
are you giving instructions on this?
I am there, and other folks are there that can help people out. I think it's actually a great way to learn. Like if you want to learn, I think peer to peer kind of happens quite a bit. I do try to watch out for like somebody giving the wrong advice. You know, that does happen from time to time, but I always like try to step in. But that's you're gonna live and learn. Like that's gonna continue to happen. But we try to provide as many resources like back to the community as possible in that way. We used to collaborate with artists quite a bit and make merchandise. That's what we used to be known for. It just happens so that we're like the quality of the fabric and all that kind of stuff was just coming into question, and we just weren't able to do that scale. So we want to bring that back, but more as a limited edition kind of thing, where we're able to just like, you know, collaborate with one artist and just go all in and just make like one really beautiful piece and just have a limited edition of just like maybe just 100 run or like 200 run and just stick that. Versus I think where we failed with the merch was like literally trying to become like a marketplace for every artist in Atlanta. Yeah. And sometimes with that is that not everybody's pursuing art full time. So you have to really be doing that for you to just like market stuff, to get it out to market and like get it in front of people. And that just wasn't necessarily working, especially with like smaller artists who didn't know how to do that. They were just caught up in the ego of like, hey, I finally have something out. People should just be buying it. I'm like, that's not how it works. You have to push it. You have to market it.
Put in the effort.
Yeah.
So it was something that like we took a step back on the merch, but we're planning on going back. I think, you know, Anu and I are working on like how we can make this happen, like, but with quality controls in place.
More quality control,
and we're really trying to see how we can lean more into education and coaching if we can through that. But it's just, again, the agency and the studio just take up a lot of our time right now, where like, to me, I'd rather just keep doing meetups. That way, like there's something that we're giving back to the community versus like saying, oh, we're going to do workshops or we're going to do this and that, which we can always do. But there's just like, there's only so much time, again, you know, that we have.
One thing we talked about, I think you told us one time that you come from a more traditional Indian family. And I knew it was less traditional Indian family.
Yes.
Talk through us, because I know we talked about like the challenges, and I think it's really interesting for people that aren't Indian to understand what that's like. If you will talk about that.
Oh, let me take a step back on that. Okay. I did have a traditional Indian family, but my parents divorced, which turned my family into a very non-traditional Indian family. But I'll let you start.
So the one big difference is I'm an immigrant. So like I was actually born in India, versus like Anu was born here in New Jersey.
Oh,
so
that's why you say you're alien on Instagram.
I say that
he really is an alien.
Yeah, I was an alien. It was on my card. It said non-resident alien. You know, so I lean into that heavily. But yeah, I was born in India. I was actually 13 when I moved here. A lot of people are surprised when they hear that, because like they don't hear an accent or any of that. But I tried really hard to get rid of my accent my first year that I moved here. And I met Anu 2 years after I moved here, I think, in high school. First period, first day.
First day of high school.
Wow.
Grade. Honors biology.
So I would say, like, because my parents are from India, they were born, like, you know, they were in their 30s when they moved here. Like, they're very much interested in like Indian culture traditionally. Anu's dad's side was more traditional, but like I think after the divorce, like I would say, you just because your family lived in America a lot longer.
Yeah. So my parents came here in their teens, and like they had family here already, so they were acclimated. They came here in the late 70s, 80s.
Okay.
So they learned about American culture. Very Americanized.
I would say my parents now are like a lot more loosey-goosey compared to when they first moved here, right? So like I think some acclimation happened. So because of that, I would say like I think Anu's family is a lot more liberal than my family was. And I mean, because we were friends though, like, and our families knew each other for a long time, it wasn't as big of as like a, dramatic event as like most Indian families kind of go through, or like we were fortunate that like our families had kind of become friends like prior to us even bringing up marriage or any of those things. But my parents did want like, a lot more of a traditional wedding, or like, those kind of things, and just expectations out of life too, or like maybe more traditional coming out of my family compared to Anu's.
Yeah. And I think there were a lot of, I mean, we love each other's families, but there were definitely a lot of challenges we both had to just experience, and because this is going to be live, I don't want to insult anybody, but there were traditions that Bhargava grew up with and traditions that I grew up with that not necessarily were the same. And there were just certain types of things that I just wasn't comfortable. You know, a traditional Hindu wedding is over 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like, for me, I could sit through my own wedding for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I wanted the wedding to be about the family coming together, but I also wanted the wedding to be about us and what we wanted for ourselves. So
Did y'all do the shoe throwing thing?
yeah, hiding the shoe.
Yeah,
hiding the
yeah,
shoe?
yeah.
Yeah.
My sisters hid his shoe,
Okay.
and he had to pay them to get his shoes back.
I only know that because, well, I know it from many, many years ago, but one of my really good friends who's this giant meathead went to a traditional Indian, and they told him about the shoe hiding thing, and he took it to an extreme. It's on video where he like
tackled the
the
guys.
guy. No. Shout out to Eddie C.
Like for me, I grew up, I feel more American. Although I'm Indian American, I grew up in a very suburban New Jersey neighborhood. You know, it was very diverse, but I grew up like the American, you know, child with immigrant parents. So at home, I would speak in Hindi, but at school, I would just be, you know, hanging out with my friends. So it was different.
Was your Santa just the old white guy?
Yeah. He was
That
an
was
old
it
white
weird
guy.
to think that he was coming into the house?
I guess I believed in that. And the Easter Bunny.
We don't even like think about this. We're just like, sure, dude's coming in the house. I don't know who he
It's
is.
so strange. Like I remember singing Christian songs at church too.
Yeah.
And my family was like, "It's fine, you can do it," you know. And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Christmas carols, and you know, I never questioned it because I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
That's cool.
Well,
Yeah.
you figure out like throughout life what you stand for anyways. So like no one telling you need to believe this or you have to do this. Like most of the time that doesn't work out because people have their own brains. They figure out what they, and it's totally amazing to love the religion that you grew up with and still continue to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's who you are. But it's also like not a big deal if you're like, oh, I did grow up that way, but now I'm more spiritual in this way.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I put all my energy into that.
And it's so interesting because, like, you know, like there's this conversation about, like, you know, people want to label, like, are you an atheist or agnostic or are you Hindu? Like, I'm like, well, if you want like a very, very technical answer, like, you know, I was born Hindu, like, and I like a lot of my basis is on that, but I was exposed to every other religion, you know, like I understand a lot of basics of every other, like a lot of other religions. And, you know, there's a lot of similarities. There's like a lot of similarities, and like they all tell you to do one thing: love other people and forgive people, right? Like, and like there's these basic things that you should be doing. And to me, like that's like we want to do that, like just as people, and it doesn't have to be based on anything specific, kind of thing. But it's interesting being from a different place because, like, my parents still want us to go to temple, like, you know, and I've been to church with my my friends or whatever, things like that. So it's just culturally, even if it's not about religion, just culturally, like it's just so interesting being from a completely different country, but wanting to feel like you belong. And how do you import that to your offspring, like your daughter, like my daughter, because like she clearly just feels American. Like she actually doesn't want to learn Hindi; she wants to learn Spanish. Whenever
she loves learning Spanish
because she gets taught that in school. So like, and she has Spanish friends, so she wants to learn Spanish rather than Hindi. So
we've been talking Hindi in front of her too, and she's like, "What are y'all saying?"
Yeah.
I say, "You can learn."
Yeah.
But no, she doesn't. She's like, "No."
She's like, I
just tell
don't care
me.
that much.
and we're okay with that. Like we can't control what her environment is right now. Like I can't think that she's gonna be like if she was born in India, it would be completely different. So I just want to focus on the now, which is that she's born in Atlanta, which is one of the best cities kind of to grow up in right now. And I'll just kind of keep it that way and just kind of have her have a great experience in one way or another.
Yeah.
If she weren't there, would you speak in Hindu to each other? Is that your go-to?
Sometimes, yeah. If we're in a situation where we need to talk, and we'll just talk in Hindi to each other.
Yeah.
Hindi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like when you're angry.
Oh
Hindi?
no,
Hindi?
no,
it's
no,
kind of more. It's our code word. It's our code language. Like if we don't want, if we don't want somebody else to
You're
understand
the
what we're
elevator
saying.
people that speak in a different language.
Yeah.
It's just easier, you know. Like it's either
Try
that.
not to. We
I tried to
can't.
learn Pig Latin, but it's
Yeah.
hard. Like it's easier to just speak in Hindi when like we don't want somebody else to kind of understand
Yeah.
what we're saying.
Usually we're speaking in English, but
Now you got to be careful though, because the Google Translate
Oh, yeah,
is
for
so
sure, for
good.
sure, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm
Like
going to the nail
Succession?
salon and I'm
Yeah.
like letting my phone listen at the nail
what are
salon.
they saying?
Like, I
Y'all
know
watch
you're
Succession?
talking about me.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
this
this
was
was
really
awesome.
fun.
Thanks for having us.
Sorry
Really
for the
fun.
technical
Yeah,
difficulties.
sorry
no,
for
you're
the
totally
noise
fine,
to
no.
start off. I mean, everyone listening, we got a little delay because they're doing major construction next door without telling us.
Yeah, so we had to
That's awesome.
repeat a little bit.
First time we've done a podcast together.
Yeah.
It was like a couple that brought like a couple
great.
on, you know, like a thing. So that's cool.
I really enjoyed this. Yeah. My first podcast ever. So
awesome.
Pretty chill. I mean, we like to keep it just very relaxed.
No pun intended.
No fun.
Yeah, no pun intended.